All right, we're at the stage where we need to begin discussing how we prep at home as it relates to urban survival. As we've already mentioned, home is where you're going to have the majority of your equipment and your resources. So home, or a bug-in location, place that you can safely shelter in place, is always number one on your PACE plan. So your primary objective is simply to stay home for as long as possible. To do that, you want to be able to mitigate any type of disaster or scenario that you may encounter. Now, again, we can what if ourselves to death. Many of us have had the past couple years to already realize the types of dangers that we face in our cities and suburban areas. So let's start at the beginning with this. FEMA recommends at minimum a 2-week food supply per person for each member of your family, and they also recommend at least 72 hours of basic essentials, so hygiene items, etc. So those numbers are askew, obviously. 2 weeks is the bottom of the barrel recommendation. I think 30 days is more accurate, and that 30 days needs to be hygiene supplies. It also needs to cover food for each member of your family, in addition to essential tools and day-to-day needs. Now, you can hear the roosters probably crowing in the background on most of my videos. Obviously, I have chickens on my property, so that's just one layer of our home preparedness. We get fresh eggs every single day, and we have meat that is walking around the yard at any given moment. So that's just one thing that we do. I used to do rabbits, I used to do other livestock, and it's just more trouble than it's worth for me at this place in my life. We have a busy business and I'm teaching a lot, so I don't have time, nor does the rest of the family, to invest in the amount of time livestock requires. Now, you look around me, this is just one of several areas that I have some of my supplies kept. I've just done the best, really the best I can with what I have available. I live on an old farm, and so I've refurbished a building and basically turned the whole building into a big closet. And I've insulated it, I've secured it the best I can, but you know, I still get some rodents that come through here. You're still going to get bugs and things like that. So instead of complaining all the time that you don't have the best or what you dream of, just make do with what you got and use what you have now. So quit putting excuses in front of your preparedness, because then you're going to be caught off guard. So I'm just going to go around the room because this is like the big part of it, all right? So over here in front of the camera, and I'll give you a 360 here in a few minutes, I've got 1,000 gallons of water on one side and 1,000 gallons on the other. Now remember, I have a large family, so 30 days of water for us, let's just say 6 gallons of water per day, 6 times 30. You know, I'm going to need at least a couple hundred gallons of water per month. So this is going to buy me a few months on water if we only used this water. Thankfully, I also have a well that was dug over 100 years ago over the hill. Still functions, but it's primitive. I'll have to draw it out. But it holds water even in the worst droughts. That's very nice to have. But I do have some water set aside, and I recommend you have at least 30 days of water as well. Now, food. I have a variety of food options that we've stored up. So 30 days of food for 6 people. It depends on how you eat. Well, obviously, most of us are fat in my family, and we like to eat, and we like to work out and do dumb things like that. We stay active and everything, so we eat a lot more, and we have a wide variety of things that we like to eat. Well, at least I do, not so much Robin and the kids. But I've got freeze-dried foods, okay? I don't recommend putting all your eggs in one basket as it relates to store-bought or prepackaged freeze-dried goods. 30-day supply, these are based on a military ration standard. And a lot of what you're buying are pancake mixes, oatmeal, and noodles. You can do all that yourself at home if you got a simple food saver or some other kind of vacuum thing. And honestly, you can just throw it in a good bag, take your vacuum and suck the air out of it, as long as it has some desiccant packets in it, and you're going to do just as well. So a lot of the stuff you're going to buy pre-packaged really isn't necessary to buy at all. That said, these actually had from Augustin Farms had some decent flavors and some other things that I do not have. And so I just went ahead and made an investment, and I bought about 90 days. Now this is 30 days for one person, mind you, but I bought about 90 days of ready-to-eat meals here. Then I also have on the other side of the room a wide variety of stuff that I made myself. It's going to go well beyond the 90 days. Here I've got various seasonings, dry mixes. I even have Sawyer water filters in here. This right here is another 4-week supply of various survival foods, breakfast, lunches, and dinners. And then of course I have a lot of my bulk items. I have meal replacement shakes. This is something a lot of people overlook. This right here provides, if you take it as it says, all right, it'll last you 30 days. And it's 4 scoops per drink, 530 calories of a meal replacement shake. Has all your essential vitamins, minerals, and proteins. That's what weightlifters and bodybuilders use, right? Well, with something like that, you're just adding more variety and longevity to everything else you have. And I have several of those. As is, it'll last about 2 years on the shelf, and then it's going to start to degrade. It's going to start to harden up. It's not going to taste that great. But you got about 2 years, and we cycle through that pretty regularly in my family. Typical green beans, corn, and cans. I'm not I've had a lot of loss when it comes to just store-bought canned goods. I used to be a big proponent of just going and buying canned goods at the store. I used to go through the process of spraying them with shellac and, writing it on the can what it was and storing them proper, and I kept them all in the house. And what happened after a few years is that the cans just degraded on the inside, and they just started bursting by themselves, having leakage, and my old house is not conducive for storage of anything like that. So I have too much humidity fluctuation, and it would get too hot and too cold, and where I was keeping them, which was under my stairwell, which is another closet in the house, and it just wasn't good for long-term food storage, I found out. So a lot of those cans just couldn't handle that fluctuation. So anyway, I brought them out into this room, and so far so good. I don't keep near as many canned goods as I used to, however. Now I keep a lot of dry goods. So I have a lot of beans, I have a lot of rice, I have some flour. Not a whole lot of flour because we don't bake a whole lot. But I do have a tremendous amount of rice, few hundred pounds, a lot of beans. I have herbals such as herbal teas. I have nettle tea. I have flax seeds. I have a variety of weird things like that because I'm kind of into that, and I know how to use it medicinally as well. Of course, you can't go anywhere without having a good supply of ravioli, so that's one of the canned goods we do have in bulk. And then of course I have dry butters, a little bit of cut yams, pre-made biscuits and gravy in the number 10 cans. And then of course I have plenty of distilled white vinegar and apple cider vinegar. And over here I've got a little bit more of the same, but I'll show you that in a few minutes. So all in, this is going to last me well beyond that 30 days. I'm going to be able to go for quite an extended period of time just off what I have on this shelf alone. That's not going around the room yet. So I'm not, and I'm not showing you all this kind of stuff to brag or say you have to have something like this, because you just don't. This is something that I wanted to invest in for many, many years now, and that's something I've been doing for, oh gosh, almost 20 years. But I started on $5 a week, and if you go to our book, The Gospel of Survival, or look in the field manual that we include with this course, you're going to see a good idea of a year-long preparedness plan based on $5 or $6 a week. Now, of course, prices have gone up a little bit, but you can still stick around there. I can tell you right now that I bought all the rice and milk and flours many years ago, and it's perfectly fine now. It's got a 20-25 year shelf life, assuming that you store it properly. I've had a lot of loss. I've had a lot of bugs get into my food, and I've had to go out and sift rice trying to save it. getting weevils and things like that, and I had to go through and reprocess it all. Again, not that big of a deal, but it's something to be aware of if you're going to go into long-term food storage. Now, the items in here, I consider part of, some of it obviously is my long-term food storage, such as this freeze-dried stuff that has a super long shelf life. Some of my rice and beans and other dry goods, that's part of my long-term food storage plan. But anything in a metal can is not part of my long-term food storage. This is within 2 to 3 years. Basically, by the expiration date, I plan to use this food. So this kind of stuff, when we run out in the house, we come out here, we grab it, and then I have another location that I have stuff properly stored a little bit differently, and it gets recycled. And then we just buy new to replace whatever we moved. So it's an ongoing cycle. If I use one, I'm going to buy two the next time I go to the store. That way it replaces the one I use, and then I have an additional back on my other shelf, and then they get rotated that way. So that's the process that we utilize. And even in this room here, due to temperature fluctuations, I'm already seeing some light surface rust along this can, and this can's only been in here for maybe 6 months. So something to definitely be aware of. All that said, I want to show you what I have in this tote. Everything in this room, as I said, some of it's long-term, some of it is for short-term or immediate emergency use. And this tote would be along the lines of an immediate use, or one collected spot to where my wife or kids could go, or I for that matter, to get essentials that we may require. So if we need a first aid kit, I've got a full, nice size first aid kit. This is not, I don't consider this my family first aid kit. We'll get into that in another video, and I'll show you how I store that, because I want my family first aid kit mobile. I'm a wilderness EMT, have been for many years, so I want to be able to grab that bag and go. But I like having these simple kits like this placed all over the place. I've got them in my vehicles, I've got them here, I've got them in the barns and other places. So it has all the essentials that one might need. I have a first aid booklet. I'm the one that knows first aid and medicine, not my wife and kids. So if I give them a cheat sheet or the ability to look up basic stuff, I'm just helping myself and them down the road. Of course, I have a SAM splint in here as well. So that's all the first aid gear that goes in this box. And where this box stays is just right here on the floor. That way, if they come in here and they're like, oh, what do I need? Oh, there's the box. Bam. I grab it. I know it has all the essentials I need in there, including food. So if my son was visiting and he needed to give his girlfriend something, say, here, take this over to your parents' house because they had a storm come through, they're going to have everything they need to endure right here. We've got a hatchet and a sturdy knife. This is a legit knife, not a junky one. Complete fire kit. Roll of duct tape. We have something that'll jump your car as well as charge all of your cell phones. And also inside this, we have cell phone chargers, those little pocket juice batteries. We have a variety of those. I found you do have to check these every few months to make sure that they are maintaining their charge, because they do let off some juice. So you need to make sure those are always charged. Colored duct tape, a simple solar lantern. These are good. And this is the inflatable type. Some headlamps. I have a beacon. This is the type you would put on a life preserver most often, but it also has a flashlight. And then, of course, it has the emergency beacon on it as well. So if you needed that and you were in trouble, you could just set it up on top of something and let it do its job. Multi-purpose wrench. All right, you're going to be able to shut off gas, utilities, things with something simple like this. Close it, use it as a hammer, pry bar, whatever you have to do. Here's a utility knife, simple Mora. I have a 10 by 10 nylon tarp. This is a heavier nylon tarp. Good quality if you needed to cover a hole in a wall or in your roof, or you needed to make an improvised shelter. This is definitely perfect for that. I also have a multi-use bag that is full of cordage, tent stakes, some additional tools. So that's pretty simple there. I have a nice sheet of heavy 4mm plastic, and this is a Mylar. This is actually a giant heat sheet made by Adventure Medical. So again, if you needed it to put on a person or to cover a hole, it's going to do the job. We have our emergency radio from the Red Cross. It has multiple radio stations, solar charge. You can wind it up as well to get power. It does have battery. It does have USB charge ports on it as well. Great little item to have. I have a 3-day supply of food for 2 people right here. So this is all freeze-dry MRE type food. 3 days for 2 people. I have an emergency whistle, one of the storm whistles. I have a map of the area. Simple road atlas will do. That's just going to let you know where you may need to go next in a simplistic fashion. Then of course I've got a wool blanket as well, and that's just a standard queen size wool blanket, and that's just a matter of need. So everything in this kit is considered an emergency use item. Everything in this kit could be grabbed, thrown into a vehicle, and you could take off and go to your alternate bug out location, and this would give you enough to get there and at least get yourself established once you arrive. Alternatively, if you needed to hand this off to a family member or a neighbor, you would be able to do that, assuming you had multiples or some variations of this created as well. So that's pretty much how this kit would work in relation to here. Alright, I'm giving you a look here at the other side of the room, and just going over a little bit more what I've got covered out here. This is Coleman stoves that take white gas. So I have my camp fuel up here as well. So I have several gallons of fuel, and I have 2 different stoves. In case one fails, I have another. 2 is 1, 1 is none, right? I have Coleman lanterns here in the back, and obviously you got to have lamp oil for your lanterns. So I have lamp oil that'll run my lanterns, and also have white gas lanterns, and also have a couple battery powers, which, you know, those are the 3-day type usage. But all in all, I've got all that, and then of course I have the standard propane lanterns as well, and I have a small supply of propane up here as well. So this is basically cooking and lighting. I have some additional hand soap up here. I've got pressure cookers, and then this is just kind of a mishmash of things that I haven't quite yet got under control. This is vitamins, dry beans, pancakes, pastas, oats, pasta and tea. This is my complete hygiene. This whole thing is full of hygiene for the entire family for an extended period. I have soap in here. I have shampoos in here. You can go to Dollar Tree and buy 20 bottles of shampoo. Go back a couple weeks later and buy 20 bars, double bars of soap, and you can fill up one of these within a month. I mean, very easily. And speaking of that, here's an idea that you might want to consider, is making a hygiene kit for each member of your family. Now this is double packed in a food saver, and look how it's already lost its suction. I found that that's pretty common with food saver items if you're going to leave them outside where there is fluctuation in humidity. So if this was frozen, which you can't freeze everything in that, obviously it'd be a lot safer. It needs to be in an airtight space for it to maintain that suction. But that said, this is double bagged, and this is, you could put this under water and it'd be fine. But this is absolutely a 30-day supply for any member of a family, 30 plus days. In this you have 3-in-1 soap, you have lotions, you have dental floss, you have a full manicure set, you have an additional bar of soap with a loofah sponge thing, you have your razors, your shaving cream, a small personal first aid kit, there's some eye drops, hand sanitizers, deodorant. There's just a variety of things in here that's going to last you beyond that 30-day mark. And then I went ahead and created a female hygiene kit for when it's that time of the month, women also like to have some additional accoutrements. So I have tampons, pads, feminine wipes, additional razors, sanitizers, Motrin, an additional bar of soap, so something like that. So I have one of those for each member of the family in addition to this. And I've got one of these totes filled with nothing but those. You can stack those up in there, and that'll get you by for a year easy peasy. So when you come to relying on these things, it's just strategy and how you want to go about it. Other things below here, just more MREs, and something that I wanted to show that a lot of people omit. Bear with me a moment. Yep. Look at this. Booze, right? I've got various types of alcohol. Now, I don't drink, even a little. I don't drink at all. But I still have alcohol, and I buy the cheap stuff. Because in a true emergency, I don't think it's going to matter that much to people what they can get their hands on. But if you have a little bit of the good stuff too, well, that might get you a little bit further along. So something people don't think enough about is barter items. So to me, those are barter items. I have plenty of first aid equipment, and I have proper first aid equipment, so I'm not going to have to rely on this for my first aid or making medicine. But when it comes to bartering or getting a rough group of people away from me, or perhaps to use this item as a social lubricant for distraction or disruption, that is going to enable me to do so beautifully. So you give a bottle or two of this to a rough group, and you won some points and or created a disruption in the system to where you're going to be able to do something different. And as promised, this is the final side of the room. Here's my water tanks right here. As I said, right at 1,000 gallons per side. I have a solar light above me, and this works really well. There's no light, medium, and high. That's been up there for a little over a year. Works wonderful. I highly recommend solar lights. I have some additional Hollywood lights to help me out a little bit while I'm in here. But that's pretty much all I rely on in this building, is completely off-grid. And it works well. These larger totes here, what do you think those are? Toilet paper. Yep, no shortage going on at the Hunt Farm. So we've got plenty of toilet paper to last us. And the last thing I want to show you, and this is something I'm kind of embarrassed about, honestly, but I'm going to show you anyway. As I said, I don't need to rely on making medicines. I have medicines. So check your dates on your medicine. Most medicine degrades at about 3 to 5% per decade, so long as it's maintained in a cool, dry place. All right, so as long as it's not getting air to it, which they're hermetically sealed. Originally, you can buy these and keep them for years, and these are so good. These are pretty new. Get you a double of the acetaminophen. You can buy your bears for your heart. You can buy your women's vitamins. Obviously, your ibuprofens. Go to Sam's Club, have a field day. Allergy medication. And then, something that people don't know much about is antibiotics. Alright, so these are the fish and veterinary antibiotics. And I actually provide a complete list of what you need and how it's used in a couple of my different books, but I'll make sure it's included as a supplement in this course. If you have a handful of antibiotics, and these are the exact same that you buy or be prescribed, you can buy these online at pet stores, and I actually use ePet's Pharmacy. They're about the same price, sometimes a little less expensive, but I have amoxicillin, I have Cipro, I have Ceflex, I have metronidazole, I have a lot more Cipro, amoxicillin, just a variety of different antibiotics. Then of course we have vitamin creams, lotions. This is stuff that I have yet to actually store properly. It's just sitting here in a bucket, and not the best spot. But again, when you got a 5-gallon bucket full of nothing but medicine, you're in a pretty decent spot. So I'd rather have a 5-gallon bucket than nothing at all. Again, all this is just to get you thinking, give you some ideas, give you some strategy on how to prepare better at home. Things that I've taken into account or go beyond my family. I planned more than my family being around. It's just how it is. I'm sure grandparents or brothers or sisters or friends might show up, and I want to be able to be a blessing to them as they come as well. It's not smart for me to put this type of information in a video, but you're investing money in me to train you and teach you something, so I'm going to have the faith that God's got my back, and I'm going to share with you some of what I've got going on, because I believe it's going to prepare you and help you. So I don't mind sharing a little bit of information with you as it relates to preparing in the way I do it, at least. Don't discount your pets. You notice I did not have pet food here. It's because it's just not in this building. We keep pet food sealed up, and again, that's not a long-term shelf stable thing in most cases. If you're going to have canned pet food again, pretty much by the expiration date or within a year or two after, you're pretty well limited. But our little pet can eat pretty much what we eat when it comes down to it. And we only have one small animal. But that's something to take into consideration. Other things that I did not discuss are hearing aids, glasses, contact lenses, any prescription item that is prescribed to you. You need to go do your due diligence, talk to your doctor or whoever's giving you that type of stuff. And I understand prescriptions change for eyeglasses. So if you're one of those people that struggles every couple years, your prescription changes, well, by gosh, just do the best you can. Keep them old ones, make sure and get them polished up and cleaned up the best you can. And just go ahead and keep them, because it's better to see a little bit than not at all. Make sure those are part of your preps as well. And then finally, the elderly. If you have elderly people in your family or elderly friends that may come to rely upon you, decide how you're going to handle that, especially in an urban situation to where there's a lot more people and there could be a lot more strain on the resources. How are you going to deal with their prescribed medicines and their way of life, their mobility issues, etc.? Are you going to have walkers here? How much room do you have to store? If they're part of your plan, you should probably be storing a lot of stuff at their house too. So this could easily become a full-time endeavor, just making sure the basic bases are covered for the people within your sphere of life. So that's something to really pray about and think over and write down and just kind of strategize on how you might deal with these issues. Obviously, if you're in an urban area, you're not going to have access to an extra building per se, but maybe you have a small closet, or you could stash something under your stairs. Maybe you could rent a storage building in another area near your apartment or your condo, whatever the case may be. You can prepare at least with 30 days in your home right now. You can prepare for beyond 30 days by simply renting or going to a neighbor or a friend or a relative's house and putting in a stash. And then, of course, you can prepare beyond 30 days by putting in strategic caches along your planned travel routes. And we'll discuss that in another video later on. But hopefully this will give you the basics that you need for home preparedness. Next thing we're going to get into is discussing my home first aid kit as a wilderness EMT and why I carry it and what all I put in it.